ko te aroa, ko Ngaitirangi, ko Ngātirangi Nui, ngā iwi, ko Toni Cummins tuku ingoa. I wrote the 7 Stars of Matariki when I was living in Makitu, and I wrote it for the tamariki that I taught, a year 3 and 4 class, and it was inspired by them, but also inspired by the whenua and by the history and through my tupuna. So I found it really easy to write the story because I lived in a place where I felt was magic all around me. There was once an adventurous young man called Mitai who lived with his 7 brothers in the village of Makitu. Mitai was the youngest brother. He had been raised by his karawa, the great tohunga Te Rāwhara, from whom he had learnt much magic. Mitai could change form into a bird and eavesdrop on his brothers' conversations. He could soar as an albatross into the sky with the god of the wind, Tāwhiri Mātia, gliding down the back of Uinoku, the rainbow. Mitai loved adventure as much as his brothers loved themselves. His brothers were the most handsome men in the village. They were so fine-looking that they had not married because they would not settle for anyone less beautiful than themselves. One day, Mitai and his brothers were out hunting on Pukemairi Hill when they were entranced by the most beautiful singing. Curious, they followed the sound to the top, where they found the most lovely wahine they had ever seen. Each wahine had long, flowing golden hair with skin so white that light shone from it. They glowed like stars. When the woman caught the eyes of Mitai's brothers, each man fell immediately in love, all except Mitai. "Woman of the strange beauty can only bring harm," Mitai warned. "These women are not of our kind. They are patupaerehe, fairy women." His brothers took no notice of Mitai. They were spellbound by the maidens and brought them back to their village to make them their wives. Mitai did not like his brothers' wives. They did not take part in village life, choosing instead to spend their time combing their golden hair and singing. The brothers no longer went hunting, only leaving their house to gather kaimoana for their wives, who refused to eat anything but seafood. Mitai's brothers were so bewitched that they no longer ate or looked after their gardens or even cared for their appearances. They became skinny and their good looks began to fade. Mitai became more and more suspicious of his brothers' wives, and he decided to watch them closely. And so it was that he noticed that the wahine never seemed to leave their houses. One day, Rongonui, Mitai's eldest brother, arrived home early from fishing. He called for his wife, but she was nowhere to be found. Searching the whare of his younger brothers, Rongo found that their wives were also missing and had not been seen by anyone in the village. When Rongo's wife returned, he asked her where she had been, and she flew into a terrible rage. Rongo told Mitai how all the wives had vanished. Mitai's suspicion grew. Mitai decided to seek the advice of Te Rāwhara. After listening to his story, Mitai's karawa agreed that the wahine must certainly be patupaerehe. The patupaerehe used to live on Pukemairi until our people came. They have long been looking for a way to return here. He told Mitai that he must watch to find out where they went. The next morning, Mitai hid behind a tree outside his eldest brother's whare. He waited and waited. Mitai had almost given up when he noticed 6 te waiwaka sitting close to the whare. And to his amazement, Mitai saw a 7th fly out of the house to join the others. Mitai transformed himself into a kereru and followed the birds to the maunga of Nongataha. When the te waiwaka reached the top, Mitai perched on a tree and watched as they changed form back into wahine. Listening to the patupaerehe, Mitai heard of their plan to starve his brothers to death. Mitai quickly returned to the village to warn his brothers of their wives' terrible plan. At first, the men refused to listen until Mitai asked them to look closely at one another. "My brothers, you used to be big, strong, handsome men. Now look at yourselves. You are nothing but skin and bone." Mitai's brothers looked at each other and knew that Mitai was right. "What are we to do?" asked Rongo. "We must go to Te Rāwhara, Mitai." The tohunga gave each of the brothers a magic net he had woven, which to catch the patupaerehe. He told Mitai's brothers that they would have to cast their wives far from the earth if they wanted to be free of them. The next day the brothers hid, waiting for their bird wives, and as the tiwaiwaka flew out of their whare, each brother snared the birds in the magic net. The tiwaiwaka instantly changed back into patupaerehe, crying out and begging their husbands to release them. The heartbroken brothers took their captive wives to Mitai, who in turn changed into an albatross. Carrying the nets, Mitai flew to the heavens, to Uru Te Ngana, god of the stars. There, Mitai asked Uru to take the patupaerehe far away. Like Mitai's brother, Uru began to fall for the woman's beauty. The gods placed the patupaerehe in the farthest heavens, farthest from the earth, yet once a year he allows the beauty of the patupaerehe a chance to shine. Each winter solstice, the magical wahine appear in the eastern sky. The patupaerehe are today known as the 7 Stars of Matariki. Their names are Matariki, Ururangi, Waipunarangi, Waiti, Waita, Tupuanuku and Tupuarangi.